The classic story of Knights of the Zodiac only happened because of a betrayal that took place within Athena's own sanctuary. As a result, Gemini's saga was the main villain in the story's first part. However, both in the classic saga and in other official works, other bronze, silver, or gold knights have also betrayed Athena for different reasons, leaving a significant mark on the entire mythology of the series. Hello, Knights and Amazons. Welcome to another video on the Sempre Quiz Saber channel. I'm Wes, and in today's video, we're going to meet 7 knights who betrayed Athena to serve other gods. Did you like the topic? So go ahead and comment where you're watching this video from. And of course, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and let's get into this awesome video. Number 1, Rigel of Orion. We start our list with this formidable warrior coming straight from Saint Exu. Rigel of Orion was originally a silver knight of immense prestige and overwhelming power. His cosmo was so intense that his blue flames, known as the Inner Fire Strike and the Dancing Fire, project blue and white flames onto his opponent. The intense heat prevents the enemy from using all of their power as well as destroying them. However, Rigel's fate changed drastically because of his deep feelings for Kyoko, the young woman who ended up becoming the host of Eris, the goddess of discord. When Eris awakened and took over Kyoko's body, Rigel made a drastic decision. He abandoned the sanctuary and swore loyalty to the evil goddess. But Rigel's betrayal was not born out of ambition for power or pure evil. He chose to become a Phantom Knight solely and exclusively to stay by Kyoko's side, in the desperate hope of protecting what was left of Kyoko's soul. She had been possessed by Eris. Rigel acts as a protector in Eris's temple. He faces his former sanctuary companions without any hesitation, demonstrating a terrifying strength. Number 2, Ichi of Hydra. And in the events of Saint Seiya Omega, we find an old acquaintance of fans of the classic saga in a completely shameful situation. Ichi of Hydra, who fought in the Galaxian Wars and spent years as a supporting character among the lower ranks of bronze saints in the sanctuary, simply couldn't stand being humiliated anymore and left behind by the new generation of saints. Consumed by resentment and a huge inferiority complex, Ichi found his opportunity to rise when the god Mars was controlling the sanctuary and established a new order for the Palestra. To achieve the long-dreamed status and the recognition he believed he deserved, Ichi betrayed Athena and allied himself with the enemies. As a reward for his betrayal, Ichi received a superior armor, becoming the Silver Knight of Hydra Macho. Wearing his new silver armor, he had no scruples when facing Kuga of Pegasus and the other young knights, acting as Mars's pawn. But in the end, Ichi's betrayal was motivated by the weakness of his own spirit. He ended up defeated and humiliated once again, serving as a reminder that a knight's true power comes from his righteous motivation, not from titles granted by tyrant gods. Number 3, Ionia of Capricorn. Still in the universe of Saint Seiya Omega, we have one of the most complex and disturbing betrayals in the entire franchise, involving the legendary knight named Ionia of Capricorn. Ionia was not just any gold knight. He was a veteran from past eras, a man who had already served Athena for generations, and was even responsible for founding Palestra. He was seen as a symbol of wisdom and absolute loyalty to the goddess Athena. And what led this man to change sides was an obsessive and distorted love. Ionia loved Athena in a sick way. Seeing the goddess suffer repeatedly in the holy wars, shedding her blood while trying to protect the world, broke Ionia's mind. He came to the insane conclusion that the only way to save Athena from her eternal suffering was by helping to destroy the current world to build a new one, where she would no longer have to fight. He allied himself with Medea and the god Mars, handing over control of Palestra and the sanctuary to the enemy forces. Using his terrifying technique, the Word of Domination, Ionia could control the actions and minds of his opponents through absolute commands. After using a rejuvenation ability, he faced Kuga of Pegasus. Ionia firmly believed that his betrayal was actually the greatest act of devotion anyone could offer to Athena, thus becoming a great traitor, a brilliant mind completely corrupted by twisted fanaticism. Number 4, Orpheus of Lyra, legendary silver saint of the classic era. Orpheus was a prodigy of extraordinary power, whose level of cosmo was openly compared to that of the gold saints. He disappeared from the sanctuary years before the Battle of the 12 Houses, making everyone think he had died. But the reality was much more painful. Orpheus voluntarily descended to the realm of the dead to beg Hades to bring his beloved Eurydice back to life. after she had died from being bitten by a poisonous snake. Moved by the heavenly melody of Orpheus's lyre, Hades agreed to release Eurydice's soul with a single condition. They had to walk back to the surface without looking back even once. However, the specter pharaoh of Sphinx, following Pandora's orders, used a mirror to create a light that Orpheus mistook for the sun. He looked back and Eurydice's body was partially turned to stone, trapping her in the underworld forever. Desperate and blaming himself, Orpheus decided to stay in the underworld forever, playing his Lyra to soothe Hades' sleep in Gilteca. Although Orpheus did not become a specter, nor did he hate Athena, the act of serving his goddess's greatest enemy by playing his music for him and living under the laws of the underworld is considered desertion and betrayal in the eyes of the sanctuary. His redemption only happens when his Sayation finds him in the second prison and reveals the scheme created by Pharaoh. When he realizes he was deceived by the evil gods, Orpheus's Cosmo of Justice awakens once again. He helps the Bronze Saints invade Gilteca and dies heroically trying to assassinate Hades, proving that, despite everything, his soul still belonged to justice. Number 5. Aspros of Gemini. Now traveling to the 18th century in the acclaimed work of Los Chicanvis, we find one of the most brilliant and frightening minds in Athena's army, Aspros of Gemini. Aspros was the gold saint of Gemini, a man of colossal power and impeccable strategic intelligence, being a candidate to become the next Grand Master of the Sanctuary. However, behind this noble appearance of virtue, an evil seed was growing in his heart. This seed was secretly planted by Ionia of Mephistopheles, who was actually the reincarnated god of time, Kairos, who manipulated Aspros's mind to make him feel envy and fear of being surpassed by his twin brother, Defteros. Consumed by paranoia and the absolute desire to rule the sanctuary, Aspros tried to assassinate the Grand Master Seiji. The plan went wrong, and Aspros ended up being killed by his own brother, but not before using the Satan Imperial technique on himself to ensure that his ambition would survive beyond death. Years later, during the outbreak of the Holy War against Hades in the 18th century, Aspros accepts Hades' offer to be resurrected, and in exchange for a new life, he swears loyalty to the Emperor of the Underworld and takes on the position of guardian of the Temple of Mars in the evil celestial temples of Delos Chicambas. Wearing the Gemini cloth, Aspros confronts Defteros of Gemini in a bloody battle. Aspros' betrayal was complete, motivated by selfishness, although after his brother's death, his soul was purified and he fights against Kairos, making this one of the most epic and redemptive moments of the entire saga. Number 6. Zafiri of Scorpio. Still in the Los Delos Chicambas saga, specifically in its guidance stories, we learn about an extremely tragic case of betrayal involving the gold saint Zafiri of Scorpio. Unlike other traitors who acted out of selfishness, Zafiri betrayed the sanctuary because of overwhelming despair. Zafiri lived in the years leading up to the Holy War against Hades. He saw time go by, the specters begin to move, and the incarnation of Athena still had not descended to Earth to lead her army. Feeling that the sanctuary was completely helpless and doomed to imminent destruction at the hands of Hades, Zafiri took a radical action considered high treason. He traveled to the frozen land of Bluegrade, with the goal of breaking the seal that imprisoned the god Poseidon. Zafiri's intention was to use the power of the Emperor of the Seas to fight Hades, even knowing that releasing Poseidon could flood the world and start a global catastrophe. He believed it was a necessary sacrifice to save humanity from complete extinction. However, his plans were destroyed by Rugonis of Pisces, Albafrica's master, and by Ilias of Leo, who is Regulus's father and Sisyphus of Sagittarius's brother. Understanding the gravity of his actions and the terrible mistake he was making, which was betraying Athena's sanctuary, Zafiri used his own nails to inflict upon himself the 15 stings of the Scarlet Needle, taking his own life to pay for his sins. Number 7. Suikyo of Tassa. To close our list on a high note, let's talk about one of the central characters of the official continuation of the classic saga, written by Masami Kurumada after the Hades saga. And I'm talking about Suikyo of Tassa in the Saint Seiya Next Dimension saga. He is the man who was once an honored silver saint and the mentor of Tenma of Pegasus in the 18th century. Besides being the childhood best friend of Xion of Hades and Doko of Libra, Suikyo was an example of virtue, justice, and loyalty. However, fate dealt him a blow of extreme cruelty. His younger brother Suikyo suffered from a serious terminal illness and eventually passed away. At the moment of the young man's death, Hades' emissaries led by Pandora appeared before Suikyo with a terrible proposal. If he agreed to abandon Athena's army, swear loyalty to the underworld, and lead the enemy troops as one of the three judges of the underworld, Suikyo's soul would be spared from eternal suffering in the underworld and would rest in a peaceful place. This was one of the reasons why Suikyo accepted the burden of becoming a traitor. He donned the Garuda surplice and marched back to Athena's sanctuary as a relentless invader. He climbed the 12 houses, facing his old friends, bleeding inside with every blow he struck. What makes Suikyo's story even deeper is that even while acting as a traitor in everyone's eyes, he was still carrying out a mission that only the Grand Master of the Sanctuary and the 13th Gold Saint knew what it was. Suikyo knew that the presence of Athena from the future, in the past, would destroy the universe. And because of that, he had the mission to destroy Saori before that happened, thus preventing his former companions from getting their hands dirty. However, Suikyo ended up falling after reaching the House of Libra and facing Doko. As we can see here, the universe of Saint Seiya is far from being a simple story of good versus evil. Athena's defenders, despite receiving rigorous training focused on justice, are still human beings, driven by intense feelings such as love, despair, ambition, and the pain of grief. And sometimes by plain and simple weakness of will. These 7 knights each show completely different motivations in their betrayals. Did you like the video? Leave a comment so I know. And of course, thank you for watching until the end and see you next time. Whoever started with Cosmotel, in the end, gave it their all.
Quem seu Cosmotel infinito.